Welcome. Step 10 of our 10 steps to solution selling. Well done. We've made it. Review and revise. So we've been on a wonderful journey together, and this final step is reviewing the previous 9 steps that we've done. So let's do a little refresher. Solution selling is a never-ending journey of continuous improvement. Every single time I want you to reflect on, what did I do well? What would I do differently? What worked? What didn't work? Why did they engage? Why did they disengage? Why did they go into silence or violence? Why were they not ready to commit? Constantly reflect where in those steps could you have done something a little bit better, a little bit differently. So let's do a little trip down memory lane. Step 1 was developing brand you. And remember, this is where we spoke about people need to buy you before they will buy your idea, your concept, your product, or your service. And we spoke about psychology being 80% of your success and strategy being 20%. 2 things that contribute to your psychology: having a healthy, helpful, and productive internal dialogue. So remember, I mentioned the example. What do you want your clients to say about you when you walk out of the room? What do you want your team to say about you? What do you want your manager to say about you? And then write it down as a fact. Jackie's invested, she's committed, she's knowledgeable, she really goes above and beyond. That's your internal dialogue. And the next thing was your physiology. Remember to have a look at those power poses on TED Talks with Amy Cuddy. So step number 2 then brought us into courageous and purposeful networking. Remember, we said you've got to get out there and hunt. You've actually got to have no plan B. It's all about plan A, because if you think there's a backup plan, you're not going to get out there and network and do the strategic, purposeful connecting that you need to do to actually get the results that you want. So this is where we really think about, who do we need to be engaging? Who are the decision makers? Who needs to be my target audience? What am I going to say to them so they see it as a helpful conversation? What is their whiffing factor so I can engage them right from the get-go? And that led us into step 3, which is the networking ladder of loyalty. So remember the MCG stadium, you're 14 years old selling hot dogs, and you now need to do either 1 trip around 100,000 people or 10 trips up and down 10,000 people. In which instance are you going to sell more? The second. 7 to 14 touch points. What are you going to do to engage so you're constantly getting a better opportunity to create advocates and partnerships? Don't warm them up for the competition. And then this led us into step 4, which is diagnose before you prescribe. Remember, it's not the stated needs you need to meet from your boss, your team, your client. It's the unstated needs, it's the real needs, the secret needs, the delight needs that you need to be getting above the waterline by asking the right questions. So this then led into step 5, which was getting those hidden needs to really ascertain what are the hidden needs of your target audience. Remember, do they have a high need for status, for certainty, for autonomy, for relatedness or fairness? And have I met those needs throughout my engagement with them? Because if I haven't, and I've triggered a threat response, you're going to see silence or violence above the waterline. So we really need to be thinking, how do I meet those needs so this conversation is helpful, not harmful? That led us into step number 6, which was questioning and listening. I need to ask the right questions to get those needs above the waterline. Remember the open questions. Remember the little tip around TED. Tell me more about that. Explain that situation to me. Describe the background. And then very importantly, we need to paraphrase what we've heard and understood with our 3-step paraphrase technique. So what you're telling me, a summary of what you've heard, and then that final question, which is so important. Is that correct? Is there anything I've missed out? Is there anything else I need to know, which would elicit a whole lot more information? And that gives you a beautiful platform then to go into step 7, which is specific solution selling, where you take everything you've just paraphrased and say, right, this is what you've told me, this is what I've heard, I have the perfect solution for you. So you don't have to go into a pitch fest, you don't have to go into USP diarrhea, you just actually have to tell them you've got the perfect solution for them based on the needs that you've just uncovered. And that would then segue us into step number 8, which is reframing objections as opportunities and not threats. So remember, even if you've got the perfect solution, you're going to have people with objections. And it's really important that you see that objection as simply a request for more information and not as a huge big roadblock, because it's going to affect your nonverbals if you see it as a threat and not an opportunity. And this is where we use our 4-step objection handling process. Validate, don't follow with the but, however, unfortunately. Clarify by asking a question to get that hidden need from underneath the waterline. Give them the relevant information and segue straight into getting a commitment to the next step. And that then leads us into step 9, which is closing with confidence. And this is where we need to revisit that internal dialogue. We really need to close with the assumption that a decision has been made, because all you want to do is help them make an informed decision. You're a trusted advisor partnering with them to get a good outcome. You're not trying to pull one over on them. And this is where you can ask those tension questions. If you don't make a decision, what are the consequences of delaying the decision? What options do you have if you don't go in this direction? Really just tip them one way or the other if we're just going round and round that mulberry bush. I'm really confident that if you put these steps into place, you're going to get more win-win outcomes. And not only that, you're going to be more confident and you're going to enjoy it more. So I've really enjoyed this journey with you. And until next time we meet, be bold, be curious.